Hi, everyone. It's Stephanie again with the patient story for the last sort of chapter of Shari's story for now, talking about the reflections after going through mantle cell lymphoma. So, Shari, you had just talked about these bike rides you were able to go back. And when you wrote your timeline to me, you wrote December 31st, 2005, back to life. Rode 40 miles with the 18 to 20 mile per hour group. I was back. I had kicked mantle cell lymphoma's ass. And when I read that, it just filled me with so much energy and happiness. Um, what was that like, going back to that first time you were able to really, kind of maybe feel more like Shari from before?
Yeah, that's really what it was. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get back to who I was. I didn't want to be this person that, and I will say that there were times for the first few years that, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? It's always sort of back there. By the end of the third or fourth year, I stopped thinking about it. So I just knew I'd beat it, and I wanted to be back to what I was before. I didn't want to be better. I didn't want to be more enlightened. I didn't want to preach to anybody. I just wanted to be me again.
Right. The healthy, vibrant Shari. And it sounds great. I mean, you were able to do it. I'm glad you highlighted though that as happy and confident as you are as a woman, there were of course still going to be some moments because you go through this experience. You were very unlucky in getting the diagnosis, such a rare diagnosis to begin with.
Mhm.
So can you help with, people who are watching and reading this day to day, how you were able to get there? You know what I mean? Like the one step at a time thing. It wasn't a switch, I'm imagining, that you were able to flip. It was more like maybe you were able to live more in the present, or just what was it that helped get you there?
Well, a phrase that just came into my mind was, I'm just a positive person. Now, a positive attitude doesn't stop bad things from happening to you, but it just stops you from obsessing over them before they happen. So being a results and goal oriented person, I just needed to know I had to have something to look forward to, something that was going to make me happy, whatever it was. It could have been going out to dinner, who knows? But I just wouldn't let it keep me down. It surprised me too, because my sister said, you wouldn't believe how much we cried. Like, really? Why? You didn't have it? It's like, I didn't cry. I did cry once, but right when I first got the diagnosis and went home and I looked it up on the computer, just like my doctor told me not to, but I did, and it wasn't good. But then I sat back and I said, that's not me. I'm not the people that they're talking about in these studies. I'm me. And I am just not going to let that happen. And it's just the way I am. I just don't let bad things stick in my head.
Right. I mean, what I'm hearing from you, which is also an important distinction, is you did, for instance, that time you went home and you saw those bad numbers. I mean, you let yourself process emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's not about burying them or kicking them under the rug, but for you, maybe the processing part just is much shorter for you.
Yes, that's very well put. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you.
No
That
problem.
was that was
Okay.
true.
Okay, good.
But yeah, because my basic nature is to be upbeat and happy and positive. So yes, God, this really sucks. Then it's going to ruin things. And like, okay, now let's just move on. Done.
Right. Right.
So, but listen. I can totally get how other people um, have different experiences. It's frightening, and I mean the fact that my father died from it should have made me more concerned, but it just made me more determined not to die, because I just couldn't do that to my mother. I could not let her lose another person to this. And my uncle, who was also diagnosed with it, he lived to be 80. He survived 10 years, and actually he ended up getting a different kind of cancer after his lymphoma was went into complete remission. And he just kept going and going. And I mean, he also very positive attitude, didn't let anything stop him, enjoyed his kids and grandkids. It's like that's the environment that I lived in. So, and of course my husband was wonderful. He
Right.
just took care of things that needed to be taken care of. So I had less worry that way. That was good. That really helped.
I appreciate you bringing this up too, Shari, because it's environment. We hear the phrase, it sounds cliche or hackneyed, but it's true. It takes a village in a lot of instances. The village can mean different things to different people. But for you, it was maybe growing up with a family that had a lot of people who had this sort of attitude and mentality that you learned from as well, or maybe was innate,
Mhm.
as well as your actual support around you, like your husband. And so on that note, what what was the most helpful support, even for someone as independent and type A plus as you, when you found that you needed it? What was that best support?
Well, it's kind of a joint thing. It's every well. It was Jeff. It was my friends in my bike club, which were like a family. I'm still in touch with people, even though they're in South Florida and I'm in Central Florida, North Florida. Uh, my work family. Oh my gosh, were these people wonderful? I think I wrote you my timeline. I came in from one of my tests or something, and there's this big box for me. And I bring it in, I open it up, and there's all these little gifts and cards from people at work, and I just burst into tears. I mean, I swear that sometimes I think that cured me. Um, I just, it was amazing. And so it was just the whole of it. It's how people come out of the woodwork who you didn't even know noticed you were there for you and giving you encouragement. I think that really helps, a lot. My mom, I got to tell you, she was the most amazing person. She was 77. She had a wonderful life in her retirement community where she lived in Coconut Creek. She was on oxygen for COPD, so she wasn't really well, and she really put her life on hold for me. And it was really invaluable. And she lived to be 87 years old. She
Wow.
did all right, even with all the struggles that she had.
Wow.
So yeah, she was pretty cool.
I can see how close you were, a lot of reflection of her and you and the way that you're describing her. And, I'm so glad that you had the support and that you had each other really through all of
Yes.
this.
And it's really important, and my heart goes out to people who might not have that support.
Right.
Maybe they're an only child, or maybe they're estranged for whatever their reason. But you know what? If you get in the situation and you are estranged from your family, bury it, and reach out.
Right.
Give them a chance to say, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter who was wrong, who was right. We're family.
Right.
And actually, if you have close friends, they can be family too. And
Absolutely.
I had that as well. So,
You
but
had a lot of
reach out.
You had a lot of support in spades. I cut you off. You were saying reach out, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think I've heard many people talk about when they didn't have family around for whatever reason, they did reach out to friends. Friends were family to them. And by the way, for people who are watching and reading this, there are a lot of online communities out there too, where you can meet people who understand what you're going through. So I think the most important thing is, as you just said, Shari, reach out. And speaking of, I mean, that's a sort of form of self-advocacy, if you will. I mean, it's a different kind. I know you lived that through going hemonc shopping because you were satisfied with that first doctor you met. What have you learned, I guess, in that process, or do you have any other message to patients? Because I do think sometimes we live in a society where the culture is, be a good patient, listen and do what you're not do what you're told, but this is what's best for you. There's a balance there. So I just would love for you to speak about that.
Well, if a doctor gets insulted, I think people don't want to insult the doctor by going somewhere else. If it's a good doctor, they will say, talk to somebody else, talk to this other people, because it's not about them, it's about you. It's about you, the patient. And if a doctor's like, well, you don't like my methods, that's definitely a doctor I would not want to. Their ego is more important than their patient's health, in my opinion. So don't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to talk to somebody else. And you just never know if somebody's going to have a different idea, and they'll have a reason why. And So I think that form of self-advocacy is really crucial. And it also makes you feel like you have some power, some control. It's an out of control situation to be diagnosed with cancer. So having something that you can control, seeing another doctor, that actually gives you a little bit of, at least for me, I shouldn't say you, it gave me a feeling that I can do something, that this is something I have the power to do. I hate the word empowered, it's overused, but that makes me feel like I have something that I can do for myself.
Absolutely. That's so well put. Shari, my last question to you is an open-ended one, and I'll bring up a photo of you, and I believe it's your husband on the bicycles, but since you're a cyclist through and through, the last message is just an open-ended one. What would you like to share with people? They may be mantle cell lymphoma patients and caregivers, lymphoma. They may just be other cancer patients and caregivers, but in general, having been, quote, on the other side for so long, what would you like to impart?
Uh, I think getting exercise, maintaining some social, the social relationships. Oh yeah, this was great. This was the Bourbon Country Burn bike ride. You see, I ride a recumbent bike. Uh, it was out in beautiful horse country. The weather was gorgeous. We rode past farm after farm of animals, these absolutely gorgeous horses. Get outside, listen to nature, take a hike in the woods, a walk on the beach. Even if you go by yourself, just listen to the sounds of the world around you, the ocean, birds, crickets. And I can't speak to anybody else. I'm a little bit of a nature girl, but just it's a meditative experience for me. I don't really meditate. That's as close as I get, being out in nature. And there's a picture of me with my dog, and I just went hiking, just the two of us. And it's rejuvenating for me. And I can't see it not being that way for other people. If you've not tried that, try it. Like I said, find a little walk in the woods, and it just makes you feel better. So
Wonderful. Well, Shari, I really appreciate you spending so much time with us to share everything in such great detail and opening up. Um, would absolutely love to have another conversation at another time with you. But thank you for being with us today.
well, I really appreciate you having me, and I mean, it's valuing my story. It makes me feel good, and I'm hoping that it can help somebody else. That's the important part. Somebody can hear this and say, "Hey, life isn't over. I'm just starting." So, hoping that's the message I'm trying to impart. I
Well,
could have just started with that.
no, I hear that loud and clear. And we will make sure to get all of this on your actual story page. And so Shari's story is on our website, thepatientstory.com. And yeah, so thankful to be able to have this conversation. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.